So far in Frieren, we've met relatively few elves, but the ones that we have, they've all been ancients that have had forever to hone a craft. We've got a forgotten hero now devoted to religion, a living grimoire of every spell ever created in her head, and this one who, despite appearances, did manage some big stuff too. And then we've got a complete crash out, neat, bed-rotting equivalent of an elf. And she's fascinating for what it means for all of the others. Anyway, spoilers for episode 5 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Alright, so it's about the quest for more booze, but this story has been made particularly poignant by introducing only the 4th elf we've ever seen. And on the girl boss, girl failure spectrum, it's not a borderline case, but that's wrapped around a particularly effective parable about something universal. The bad beer is still worth drinking. I mean, yeah, but also the need for purpose. In this fictional world, among those who live an extended amount of time, it's especially needed. But it applies to all of us. It's something that's important for fulfillment, and one that people can easily forget. This is what this story has to say about one of life's biggest questions. We open in the Northern Plateau, in a rare town that's dedicated entirely to beer and bars. Just one huge pub crawl, and the perfect place for a reunion with one of those people that Frieren met once, a long time ago. Only this isn't someone that she helped with a side quest last time she was here. It's someone they specifically chose not to help. In an act that says more about the arrogance of elves than it does about the motivations of dwarves or humans. He's searching for a long-lost spirit. It's said to be the finest around, offered to an emperor who ruled a lot of the continent. It's old, it's legendary among drunks and dwarves and corrupt priests. It was actually so important that Heiter apparently told a child Fern about missing out on it, that war orphan definitely used to know about every brand of spirit you'd like to try at some point. You have such limited time that you have to rope this lady into becoming a legal guardian, but the kid's got time to learn your entire alcohol preferences. It's been this guy's purpose for the last 80 years, and a lot of the story is more about the abstract of a purpose in life than this emperor's new clothes beer that he's searching for. He met the heroes party a while ago, but they wouldn't help him, because what is the beer to him? What the hell do you do with your life? That's the beer. To some people, the answer may have been to brew a special spirit for the emperor, or to find that special spirit, but it doesn't have to be anything to do with booze, really. It could be anything, like finding old spells, or repaying a debt to an old master, or spite. It could just be pure spite, just being a jerk for no reason. But everyone kind of needs a purpose. That's what this episode is about, that need. You can go with something basic or something difficult, but it's about setting your own meaning and importance. That's what makes life tick, finding the part of it that brings meaning to you. It's personal. And this is the second anime I've watched in the last year that's about the need for a purpose for the lens of brewing specifically. Because this is something which is one of those universal things, but people seem to lose it. It's very common to end up in a situation with no goal, no purpose to reach towards, just letting the days roll on. The thing is, that doesn't have to be a huge achievement. Sure, it's fun if you want to be an Olympian or perfect the art of craft brewing, but it can be anything. The purpose is often the excuse to bring meanings to the way that life goes. It's a way of keeping goals and structure and something to aim for, but it's not necessarily everything. And finding that is a problem that's not too easily solved. Plenty of people fall into this trap, and beyond that, plenty of people fall into it for a brief period of time, you know? When you're between jobs, or after a breakup, or when you just watched Evangelion through at the wrong time and you felt a little lost for a while. It's a pretty universal problem. I think that specifically has happened to all of us. Feeling listless, like you don't have a purpose, is the kind of thing that can contribute to bigger problems in your life, personally, mentally, and you're in health too. It can have an effect. And the solution that comes up is one that's kind of universal too. You see, Fass has a purpose, and it's one that's helped him. You see, he might be a dwarf, but he's not taken naturally to mining. It's okay, plenty of cool dwarves are better at other things. But he has taught himself that whole mining skill, enough to dig this entire shaft out, and it looks fucking sturdy, by the way. This is no first night in Minecraft kind of pit, and it was all to find booze. It's that purpose that's pushing him onwards. Fass is as much of a connoisseur as a drunk. He wants to taste this legendary spirit, not just get hammered on anything. He wants to try something interesting. It keeps him sober long enough to mind that. Even outside of this episode, we have a great demonstration of how this works. Everyone other than this failure of an elf has something. On the surface, many of the purposes are kind of basic. We have Frieren who wants to get north and reunite with the hero, yeah. Fern is supporting that goal, but she's also training as a mage. Stark is protecting them and bringing stories back to Eisen. This guy wants to find the old beer. But ultimately their purpose isn't really the end goal. It's something different. Just like the real purpose for this dwarf wasn't finding the right hooch, it was sharing it. Frieren is getting to know humanity as she walks, and processing her memories. These two are doing a whole coming-of-age thing. What Frieren was afraid of, though, what made them not help in their 10-year journey of helping people instead of doing anything important, was that she didn't want to leave him without a goal. Last time they turned him down too, which is rare, isn't it? That she's deciding not to help somebody, and it's because Frieren knows more than she's letting on. She didn't want to take away someone's entire reason for being, just because this incredibly spiteful elf wanted to do a prank. Elves need purpose. This episode is great for looking into some of that. What kind of happens when they don't have one? So far, the elves we've seen have been driven comparatively. They're survivors. They're the ones who lasted out that campaign to eliminate them. They're mainly those who have been okay with living outside of an elf society. It makes sense that those we meet in the present would be standouts, but this one we only see in flashback, and she seems to be showcasing why elves need purpose. Miliarde didn't have a goal, any reason to drive her life forward. It was missing. Frieren hasn't at times too, has lived apathetically, and this elf becomes relevant because Fass has found a tablet inscribed with ancient Elvish. It praises Bosch Haft as the finest spirit around, signed Miliarde. A message that's had its meaning lost. Oh, but it's here where we learn that Fern has learned Elvish largely to read grimoires. She's learning an almost dead ancient language just to read light novels. But that little bit of trivia is something thematically important. It's again someone learning something big and complex, and it's all in pursuit of an unrelated goal. Like mining just to find the crater cans to drink. The way that having a purpose can echo through your life and help even in unrelated areas. Like this elf, her larger goals, that's one thing. But they extend outwards to learning a ton of skills, meeting and helping a load of people. And what is this other elf doing with their time? They're watching the ripples on a pond. Frieren doesn't want to take away someone's reason for being, because this whole thing started with an elf without purpose. It's framed as relieving their boredom. Miliarde is an elf living a long time ago who hasn't managed to find a goal or a purpose. She's just adrift, just pointlessly waiting, passively chilling out. I mean, sure, not everyone needs to strive for these big, giant things, but she does seem pretty bored. I mean, it's visually shown by just watching the vibrations on the surface of some water, completely passively. Apparently having wasted their time on something so pointless in the past, they've lost the taste for doing anything. It's the equivalent of somebody checking out of society to bed rot. And similarly, that makes her more inclined to act out at that society that she's not a part of. In a fairly funny way, though. She set the whole thing up to mess with people, just to get in their heads. She says, there's no point, it was just a prank, bro. Using your untold number of years for something so empty. It's impressively lazy. There's just nothing to it. And out of the elves that we meet, that they need a bigger goal or they'll just rot, seems to be a big factor with them. And Miliarde is the example of a crash-out elf. Well, he can't figure anything new out, so just goes around doing dumb stuff for the sake of it. I say that as someone who once made a video about how many characters in this show had dead parents. This elf just sucks a bit, though. Frieren lived apathetically at one point, but at least she was doing something. This one's just out here making messes. And while she is a jerk, she's accomplished quite a lot. Even the evil elves seem to get things done. Miliarde is just a bad example for the rest, but one that puts Frieren into context and makes her journey much more powerful. Without purpose, elves really do get off the rails. Largely, her modern purpose comes from Himmel. Flamme may have set her up with this goal to kill the Demon King, but it's Himmel who got her back on track, and he's this incorruptible good going through the world that set the example for her in the present. And as we delve deeper into the world of Frieren, like more of its elves and how they work, the more the impact of that incorruptible good seems to get bigger. Miliarde's prank doesn't have the effect on humans that she expected either, because as it turns out, this tall man's incorruptible goodwill to all mankind, it's not too far from the norm. It's a parable, kind of, because the roots of the problem go back much further. The beer was once known to be awful. That's lost knowledge now, though. So it's actually like a reverse special brew, which was a real beer brewed for a prime minister in this country that turned out just to be awful. Anyway, there's a little hint into that wider theme of aging and how that got lost. This bit of graffiti caused such a lot of trouble, largely because as the time passed, the original message got twisted. Frieren is the one who remembers that it's made up nonsense from a bored elf. Sometimes it's better not to help people. Is that really our takeaway here? It's a difficult thing, removing somebody's purpose like that. Both elves were being a bit arrogant with people here. One was deciding she could mess with them, but the other in deciding to protect people, she did too. Neither really understood humanity when they did that. When Fast finds out he's wasted so many years, he's not unhappy. It's a nice moment, and I think beyond just that you need a purpose, this elf prank didn't really do any harm in the end. Because look, microbrewing is hard, like a lot harder than it looks. I've tried to brew beer a few times. It takes a while. You need too much equipment and you spill a load of half-brewed beer everywhere when you're bottling, and that stuff just is difficult to get out. And this is all way before you get anywhere close to making something drinkable because it's difficult. There's no point to the whole process if your goal is just to drink the beer yourself. You can just go buy a pack of tins if you want to do that. The point is the process, the learning, the experience, and in the end, the sharing, because the first few will be an acquired taste. You'll need to have some fun with the bad beer just as much as the good ones, or you're not going to enjoy the process. I think Frieren gets caught up in the purpose being the reason, and not just being something in of itself, brewing the beer to brew the beer, which is ironically kind of how the whole thing starts. Doing something weird, just for the sake of it. The end goal isn't the important thing, it's that process of getting there. It's all of the connections and memories made that come along with it. Hey, thanks for watching. Sub if you want to see more. Right, cheers.